They walk in a bad mood and your cortisol levels go through the roof. You're scared. You know that they're not going to tell you what's bothering them. And you know that you're about to stand on a landmine. So here you are walking on eggshells, doing everything as to not upset them further. Matter of fact, you aren't even going to remind them that two of you were supposed to be going somewhere together, which is often part of the game that they play in not having to respect a promise that they made. So you say something to them just to get their mind off of whatever is going on with them. Maybe you tell them something that's going on in the world, something that happened today. And you get a response like, wow, you really believe everything that you hear, don't you? With a rolling of the eyes to add effect, just to bring you down, make you feel stupid. But this isn't the time to address this hurtful comment. Not that there is ever a good time, but anyway, you take the hit and you don't say anything because you know. So what do? You go to the kitchen and make them a nice meal. You go without the outing that had been previously planned, and then you cook and clean. I'm just giving examples here. Maybe you were hoping that they would mow the lawn, but you do it. And that is the fawn response. The fawn response is such an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding what happens in toxic relationships, especially when we're in relationships with narcissists. While most people are familiar with fight, flight, freeze, the fawn response is less talked about, but it's incredibly common for survivors of narcissistic abuse. At its core, fawning is about people pleasing as a survival strategy. When you're dealing with someone emotionally volatile, like a narcissist who punishes you for setting boundaries or for not meeting their needs, your nervous system learns, if I can stay agreeable, helpful, forgiving, and understanding, maybe I'll be safe. So rather than fighting back the fight response or leaving the flight response or going numb, freeze, you over accommodate, over apologize, try to anticipate their needs, and twist yourself into a version of yourself that won't trigger their rage, manipulation, or withdrawal. You go without getting any of your needs met. You go without having a voice. You go without ever being comforted. You go without love. You go without apologies. And you go without respect. You go without acknowledgement. And I haven't even mentioned the physical things that you go without, such as friends, money, or vehicles. Please leave a comment below to let me know what else you've gone without. You are constantly agreeing even when you disagree to avoid conflict. You're saying sorry even when you've done nothing wrong. You try to fix their moods by making yourself smaller, more helpful, or more lovable. You ignore your own feelings or needs to focus on managing theirs. And then you take all responsibility for their happiness, moods, or reactions. You don't know what they did, and suddenly they're angry. We're fawning constantly in order to survive more traumas. We put up with comments that are meant to subtly put us down, and we know it. We don't feel safe letting them know what they said was not okay in order to not be harmed, but we're harmed regardless because that pain sits in us. It cuts us like a knife and we never really get over it. We'd really need to talk to someone, but when we do, we're left feeling shame because others respond as though we're just complaining and it isn't so bad. One time I had someone whose narcissist tried pushing her down a flight of stairs, and she held on for dear life to that stair rail until he stopped. And this was the first time that he had been physical with her, and it wasn't going to be the last. So she ended up getting into her vehicle and drove not knowing where to go. All she knew was that she wasn't going home. And this guy checked her odometer at all times, and so she knew that there would be hell to pay if she traveled far. So she parked in a local shopping mall and just sat there confused, crying, and not knowing what to do. So she called her friend, and her friend showed up, telling her that she wanted to be supportive. But when she told her what happened, her friend just looked at her blankly, clueless at the gravity of what took place. And she just said, gee, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you should try doing something nice for him so he'll calm down. And then she laughed. I mean, go do some more fawning here. Be nice to someone who just threatened your very life. I mean, an oh my God or a wow as a response would have been way more healing for her than that response. She felt shame. She felt that she had bothered her friend for such a minute complaint. She was an inconvenience and a drama queen, is how she felt that she was being viewed as. And all she wanted in that moment was for her friend to leave. So she told her that she was going back home so that her friend would leave because this was doing more harm than good. She didn't go home though. She sat all night in the parking lot. What she would have needed was validation, and instead she was left invalidated, further traumatized. And he had texted her all night saying that we should talk. But when she finally agreed to come home and talk, he had done nothing wrong and he never pushed her down the stairs. It's incredible how they just won't take responsibility. You are there as a servant for them. They don't owe you, you owe them. And your reward is the fact that they're with you. Talk about a God complex. They view themselves as having extraordinary abilities and the right to special treatment, and they disregard rules or consequences for others. Narcissists, they train you to believe that your worth is tied to how well you serve them, emotionally, physically, sometimes financially. They punish authentic expression, your emotions, your needs, or your boundaries through shaming, silent treatment, rage, or gaslighting. So your body learns to fawn as a form of self-protection. But the truth is fawning doesn't create safety. It only creates temporary peace at the cost of your self-worth. It's a survival mechanism. You know that you're fawning. You know that you're doing it to survive day-to-day outcomes, to avoid 3 days or so of silent treatment, to avoid being put down where they're looking for a scapegoat. But the thing is that you end up having self-hatred for self for putting up with it. You feel weak for not standing up for yourself, but don't do that. That isn't your fault. Long before the narcissist came into your adult life, your nervous system was already trained to believe that being agreeable, helpful, and self-sacrificing would earn you safety. For many of us, this starts in childhood. When a child grows up in an environment where love is conditional, meaning you're only safe, seen, or valued when you behave the way that the adults want, your brain learns my needs make people upset. My feelings make people pull away. So the less I ask, the more I give, the safer I'll be. And this is the foundation of the fawn response. It creates a loop. I don't express myself. I focus on keeping others happy. I avoid danger for now, temporarily. But the cost is high. Your authentic self gets buried under fear and self-abandonment. You're giving to someone who is basically laughing at you, and you deserve better than that, way better. So what ends up happening is that when you enter a relationship with a narcissist, this old wound, it gets activated. Narcissists, they thrive on control and supply, and the fawn response feeds both. So you end up apologizing even when you're the one that's been hurt, ignoring your gut instincts. You end up walking on eggshells, like I just mentioned. You're thinking, if I can be good enough, kind enough, understanding enough, maybe they'll finally love me the way that I deserve. They don't know the meaning of the word love. But narcissistic relationships, they don't reward kindness. They punish individuality. You get punished for setting a boundary. You get punished for knowing something that they don't know. You get punished if you don't agree with them or if you have something nicer than them. And so the cycle deepens. The more that you fawn, the more power that the narcissist gains. When you're fawning, they know that you're fearing them. They know in these moments that they have power over you. And they see how much they can control you like a puppet. And that empowers them. It's supply. So when they first walked in feeling angry about whatever, they were feeling weak due to someone not acknowledging them or someone getting more attention than them or whatever. So they needed supply, and you were the way that they got it. They filled up at your expense. And these people, they will never change, unfortunately. You're giving and you're giving to someone who absolutely does not merit. Yet here you are being the one who really deserves good, and instead you're constantly being punished. How is that okay? You want to break free from these toxic relationships, but in order to do that, it'll take first radical acceptance that they are who they are and it was never personal. And secondly, you need to start seeing that you yourself are seriously going through abuse, because we don't see it. Not really. We don't see the extent of the abuse until we leave. It's part of cognitive dissonance. The brain struggles to hold two conflicting truths at once. This person says they love me versus this person is hurting me. This person is nice versus this person is bad. This person helps me versus this person harms me. To resolve the discomfort, the mind often minimizes the abuse and rationalizes the narcissist's behavior because the alternative, accepting the truth, feels too overwhelming, especially if the victim is emotionally or financially dependent. And another part of it is due to intermittent reinforcement. Narcissists switch between love bombing, devaluation, and sometimes small moments of kindness. And this creates a trauma bond where the victim becomes addicted to the cycle, constantly waiting for the good times to return. The confusion this creates can cause the victim to doubt their own perception. And then there's the gaslighting, as you all know. The narcissist actively distorts the victim's reality. They deny, they minimize, they twist, or they blame the victim for their own abusive behavior. And over time, the victim starts to lose confidence in their own memory, their own feelings, and their instincts. There is the normalization of dysfunction. If the victim grew up in a family where emotional neglect, manipulation, or abuse were present, their nervous system may already be trained to accept mistreatment as normal or love. Then there is the shame and the self-blame. Narcissists subtly or overtly convince the victim that they are the problem. And this deepens self-doubt and keeps the victim stuck trying to fix the relationship instead of seeing the abuse clearly. Then there is the survival mode. Living under emotional attack puts the brain in survival mode. The focus becomes keeping the peace, avoiding triggers, or managing the narcissist's moods rather than pausing to reflect on the situation. You never have time to reflect on the situation. You're always in survival mode. When you're busy surviving, there's no space for perspective. When a person is in danger, whether it's physical or emotional, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, signals the adrenal glands to flood the body with adrenaline and cortisol. This stress cocktail does several things. It numbs physical pain so that you can survive an injury or keep functioning. It narrows focus so that you're hyper alert to the threat. It shuts down self-reflection and critical thinking because in survival mode, action is prioritized over analysis. And this is exactly what happens in narcissistic abuse. Even though the danger isn't always physical, the nervous system still reacts as if it is. And the constant cycle of walking on eggshells, emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and unpredictable explosions, it keeps the victim in a state of chronic fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And when you're in this state, you don't fully process what's happening. You don't feel the full emotional pain of the abuse. That's why a lot of times you say, well, I can handle it. I'm stronger than he is. What you do is you focus on immediate survival, pleasing the narcissist, avoiding triggers, staying safe rather than thinking critically about your reality. And this is also why victims often wake up after the relationship is over, once the stress hormones calm down. The brain finally has room to process and reflect. It's like lifting a car in an emergency while the crisis is happening. Adrenaline masks the pain and fear, and your body just does what it has to do. Afterward, when the chemicals wear off, the injuries and the emotional shock sets in. So once distance and safety are established, the fog lifts. That's when many survivors finally start connecting the dots and realizing how severe the abuse was. Breaking free starts with small, simple truths. Your needs are not a problem. Disagreement is not a crime. Self-abandonment is not love. Your nervous system fawns because it once protected you. So the healing path is not about stopping the fawn response overnight, but about awareness of what's happening to you. So healing practices include naming your feelings without judging them, setting small, low-risk boundaries, and watching the world not collapse. Learning to sit with the discomfort of not pleasing and then surviving it. Surrounding yourself with relationships where you can exist without performance, where people will actually accept you for who you are. So in closing, the fawn response is not your fault. It is the imprint of survival, but it is not your destiny. You are allowed to exist. You are allowed to take up space, and you are allowed to be loved without earning it through self-sacrifice. Look at little babies. They're not doing anything in their love. They don't have to prove their love. They just exist. So I leave you with this to ponder on, and we shall see you in the next video. Hopefully, anyway. Bye for now.